couldn't. Welcome everyone to our closeout meeting for the hypertension project, but this meeting is going to double as also an interview series, which we may be having regularly because many of us are beginning to have interviews, and we'll just focus on this. This is the IMG Research Academy, where we talk about everything in research. Is a group that contains close to like 30, 40 medical doctors, foreign trained medical doctors that are doing their residency or about to do their residency. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you know, I'm muted.
Yeah,
you know, you are muted.
It broke up. Let me just make one or two people admin so that in case I go up, make co-hosts. In case if I go off, it will make co-hosts. Tom, is your network good? Yes. So just give me 1 second. I want to make some people co-host in case my network goes off so that everyone can go in. So like I said, this is IMG Research Group made up of sorry guys, I'm having some network issue, but I've fixed it. I've switched to my another Wi-Fi. It's a little bit network issue, but I've switched to another Wi-Fi. This is the IMG Research Group, where we have doctors from all across the world focused on, how to produce quality world-class clinical research. Today we'll be having our closeout meeting for a project we started about 6 weeks ago. The project is a hypertension project. The objective of the project was to look at the trend and the changes in hypertension over the years from 2001 to 2019. We had about 20 authors in this project, and we looked at various guidelines, international guideline, American Heart Association, American Diabetes Association, and we looked at what changed and why did it change. That was the objective. Hypertension is very crucial in our everyday management of patients, and we wanted to know the trend and what is currently obtainable. We have completed the project. Everybody submitted their part of the research, and we'll be publishing this research this Saturday. We'll be sending it to the editors this Saturday and this Sunday. We have 2 journals in mind. American Heart Association is our first journal. We'll send it to them and we'll see what happens. Usually they take like 3 weeks to proofread it and see if it fits their criteria. I communicated with the editor of American Heart Association, and he said I should shoot him an email with our draft. So we're shooting him an email on Saturday with the draft. If they accept it, he said it's going to take 1 week to accept. That's like 4 weeks in total. Then they will have to redraft it according to their guideline. That's how American Heart Association is. If American Heart Association refuses, we're going to reject the paper. We're going to send it to Curos. Curos will also land us in PubMed. PubMed, it's the ultimate goal because the work is scholarly, and not just scholarly, is unique in its nature. Well, if you search in the internet, you won't see such compilation of trend in guideline. So thank you so much, everyone that participated in this research. After we submit, what next? American Heart Association has $1,800 fee. We'll communicate it to the House, we'll solicit for support, we'll see how we can raise the fund. If American Heart Association rejects it, then we will go to Curos. Curos is about $400 to submit. We'll see how it goes. But the thing I usually tell researchers is, first of all, don't worry about the finance, produce the job, and we'll see how we can navigate the finances around. There are a lot of people around willing to send in their support financially. If not, we can just divide it amongst ourselves. It might not be more than $30, $40 or $20 each person, and we'll hit the product. Thank you so much. We'll be switching to the second part of today because we want to keep this meeting for just 1 hour. We have preceptors in our midst, 2 preceptors. I don't know if you can you guys hear me? I hope I'm not just talking to myself. Can everybody hear me?
We are hearing you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, so we have 2 preceptors in our midst. Dr. Ayola Kalejaye, I will introduce him. He's from Montefiore Medical Center. He's a PGY2 internal medicine, generally interested in cardiology and preventive general interest in preventive cardiology. We also have Dr. Vivian Nena. She'll be joining us soon. She's PGY1 resident at University of Illinois, Chicago. We also use this forum as a networking forum. So if you can reach out to them for advice, for requests, they are very open to mentoring people. They are busy. They might not be able to submit your name because probably by now they would have had like 1,000 names they want to submit to their program, but you never know, you can just try. We grow our network. We don't know where we're going to meet tomorrow. Our professionals, hopefully, someday will rise to the level of WHO leadership positions in our various cadre, and we might need our network. One of the things I've seen that Indians do is that the Indians, they have a very strong network, and tomorrow, probably Dr. Ayola might be the program director, and he knows Dr. Edward, and I'll refer someone to him, hey, and that's how we begin to build strong networks amongst ourselves. So apart from research, something that brings us together, common interest that brings us together. We also use this.
Are you on stop?
We have a special guest in our midst. I think he just announced himself by coming in. Someone I respect. I will introduce him afterwards. So Dr. Ayola Kalejaye, like I said, and Dr. Vivian will be leading today's meeting. And we have 3 people that have volunteered to be on the hot seats: Dr. Abimbola, Dr. Henry Lukeme, Dr. Ugo Hosward. So they will be taking the questions, and Dr. Kalejaye will use his own style to guide us through on. Basically, the focus is on the research that we have done. How do we answer the questions, whatever questions that will come up in the interview, and other things that he wants to chime in about interview preparation and other things. Thank you so much. So I'll leave the floor for Dr. Kalejaye and Dr. Vivian to step in. But before I do that, we have a very well-respected fellow in our midst, Dr. Joey Joseph is his name. A longtime friend of mine, senior colleague. I enjoyed his company in Kano. Then here he's a fellow. Joey, if I introduce it wrongly, let me know. He's a psychiatry. He's a fellow in psychiatry, addiction psychiatry, addiction and HIV psychiatry. He's finished his residency. He's done his fellowship, and is currently heading a medical unit. But Dr. Joey, you can clarify if you can hear me. Welcome. Okay, Dr. Kalejaye, over to you. I'll stop the share screening and you can take the function. Hi, Dr. Joey, can you hear me? You can unmute yourself and just say 1 or 2 things, then we go from there. Dr. Joey, you're mute. Okay, Dr. Kalejaye, you can go, you can take over the lead, and Dr. Joey might chime in something at the end of the day. Dr. Ayola, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Eddie. Good evening, everyone. Hi. Let me
Sorry,
give a disclaimer
I don't mean to interrupt you. We also encourage people to put on their cameras. We want to see your faces as much as possible, except you are in a very private place where you can't really put on your camera, but we strongly encourage Dr. Chinedu, every Olamide, put on your cameras. We need to see your beautiful faces, and we go from there. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to give a disclaimer before continuing. Thank you, Dr. Eddie, and thanks everyone for coming. So Dr. Eddie told me I was going to be an observer, that I would just come and observe and comment. He did not tell me I'll be the chief moderator, so just bear with me. So, so do we like start with each person, or do I just ask a question and then anyone can answer?
Your style, you know, you're our boss in this matter. So your style, you have a lot of other people that are willing to, you know, support you. Dr. Joe is here, he's very experienced, and other Dr. Vivian will also join in. So, I mean, your style is your day. Okay, sure. I remember Dr. Henry Elukemi was part of the people that volunteered, right? Dr. Abinbola, I think this is someone else I'm missing.
Yeah, I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Hi, okay. And who's the third person, Dr. Eddie, just so I know?
Let me see. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, those are the volunteers.
Okay, all right, got it. So, okay, all right, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
So I'll just start generally. So I think when it comes to research during the interview, people just want to know, from my experience, people just want to know what you've done and how you can talk about what value that experience added to your medical training and what exactly your role was in the research. It's not really like it could be a form of vetting, because like a lot of people have different research experiences on their CV, but you not being able to talk about it could be a red flag, in as much as the research itself is supposed to be a green flag. So that's why it's important, to have meetings like this. So sometimes people could just ask open-ended questions. For example, I could ask Dr. Abinbola to just, tell me about your research experience. And I don't know what she's done, but for example, if someone were to ask Dr. Abinbola to, I'm going to put Dr. Abinbola on the spot, so please bear with me. Could you please tell us about your research experience so far?
Thank you very much, everyone. This IMG Research Academy is the first one I joined, and I believe the burden of obesity, is the first research I started with this group, and so from there, I've also joined some other groups, and so now I think I have about 5 publications. So basically, that's all I can say about my experience.
Okay. So what was your experience like working on the obesity project?
Okay, so it was a teamwork from the beginning. We had a very good leader in Dr. Edward. And, he's been the one cheering it, cheering us up, and then we had. I'm sorry about that. We had several roles. Give me a second.
No problem at all.
Sorry. Okay, so we were given different roles, to take, and essentially we did that. Then we've been having meetings, to check up on each other, then to know how far we've gone, the progress, and that's about it, really, what I can say.
Sure. Again, I'm going to go back to Dr. Eddie. So again, this is freestyle. So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to, go around and just give like immediate feedback. So I think Dr. Abibola did a great job in, explaining what the research was and highlighting the fact that she worked in a team and highlighting the fact that there was a team leader. And I also learned that they had feedback meetings, and so there were serious people working together. However, the one thing Dr. Abimbola did not mention that I was looking forward to hearing was what exactly was her role in this project. I think that's important to highlight when we talk about research experiences. So that would be my one feedback that could make your answer, perfect. But I think you like every other thing I said, you did a great job. Talking about the experience, but including what exactly you did, I think it's something a lot of people would look out for. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you. So what would be like saying like I was a researcher, a scriber, or really what would be my answer to that?
Sure. So I'm not like the most versed research guru, but when it comes to research, there are like different roles, right? Some people do the literature reviews, some people just write up an article, and it also depends on what kind of research this was. So I believe it was like a descriptive study or retrospective study or something. So your role could be as simple as doing the literature review for the team or writing a piece of the paper or being the in-house editor. I'm not sure the proper term. So there are different roles that you could have had. You could have multiple. So someone who wants me to throw the question to them, sure. Dr. Eddie, please go for it. Oh, my bad. So I'm sorry, I'm just still catching up without using. So I'll throw the questions to Dr. Eddie to give us an example.
So Dr. Abimbola, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so I'm not an expert like we're still all applying, but I feel I've been in meetings where I have interviewed people because I work in a top role in research. So I employ people, and when they come to me and I ask them, tell me what you have done, your question should be structured. Your answer should be structured, and those answers should reflect you, not you in various perspectives, not Edward, who's the team leader. So you're trying to sell yourself to the program. You're trying to sell yourself to me, to say, this is why you should take me, I'm competent, right? I've done this, we did it. So for example, I'll give an example. Oh, I function in a research group. It's a group that has over 30 medical doctors that are interested in clinical research, not just clinical research, are interested in ways to find social determinants of medicine and areas that they could improve in the US. For example, we did a study looking at the factors that determine obesity in rural America. One of the studies that we published and is archived in PubMed at the moment. And in that study, we aim to find out what actually are the factors that drive obesity. And in our next research, we scheduled a follow-up research to see how we can curtail or how we can control these factors or recommendations that we can give. So we actually did a literature review or a robust literature review. What I did, so you now tell it to yourself, what I did was I was part of the people that looked for the materials. We looked at various literatures in various regions of America and in various publications. And we looked at what active researches have been done and what were their conclusions. We found out that obesity was driven, so you're talking about, you now go to the result. You find out that obesity were driven by several factors: poverty, income and poverty, educational level. The lower educational level you are, the more you're obese, the more obese you are, access to healthcare. So you highlight those things that we found out in that particular group. And that was our summary. I'm particularly this research is particularly exciting to me because it makes me to understand my unique environment, especially around this hospital that I'm applying. What could be the factors or determinants of health in this hospital? all our obesity patients that we're going to have, are they, what could be their factors? So it will give me a holistic picture to, manage these patients that I will see eventually when I begin my residency program. It could be that they are poor, it could be that they don't even have knowledge of what are the key factors that drive obesity. So you see, I've described who we are, what we did, what is our passion. Then I tied it to the program, and I came to, because we're not just doing this research for nothing. We're not doing it just to get publication. We're trying to study something to get something out of the society and see how we can improve that health standard. But like I said, I'm not the expert. We have other people, Dr. Joey, Dr. Kobe Tobechukwu, and people that have, gone through interview. I'm just an applicant myself. But if I was asked, that's how I will answer it. I don't know if I made a little sense. Thanks.
I have a question. I'm sorry. Can I go ahead? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can everyone hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Hear you.
Oh,
We
okay.
can hear
So
you.
I was just going to ask if if the question if they asked me like so what did I learn? Would that be an appropriate one to ask, and how would I approach that?
So I believe you're asking me that question, you're throwing it up to, and everybody can participate. It's a group. If you have any response, so that I don't be the only person talking about, it's Dr. Ayola's day. So, but it's the same principle. What did you learn during your research days? If I was asked, I'll answer it the same way I answered this. What we did, what we found out, what I learned. That's our results, right? What is my passion? Then I'll try and see how to tie it into the program, because we're not just doing it for nothing. I'm trying to see how to say, hey, obesity, your program is a rural hospital, and the burden of obesity has been shown to be higher in the rural center than in the urban centers for these reasons. I believe your patient demographics might reflect this. I'm not too sure, but maybe it might reflect it, and it will help me better prepare on how to, the challenges during residency, on how to tackle these people or tackle this problem when I come across it. So I'm selling myself to the program, connecting what I did and selling it to the program. I don't know if you get it. Yeah, and if you just read the abstract of every of the study that we did, it contains our objective, our methodology, and our summary. You might not even need to read all the papers, or if you can read the whole paper, that's fine. But hey, like I said, I'm just an applicant. Dr. Ayola can correct me. We'll move from there.
Hi everyone, this is Vivian.
Hi Vivian, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm at work. Just to add to what Dr. Kubi just said. So everything he said is in order. I'll just add that everything is about selling yourself. And just this answer you gave, very brilliant answer, but you can always find a way to use it to advertise or just highlight your own personal skills. Like saying, oh, that opportunity working on a research allowed me to improve my skills or just improve my ability to work with other people, work on a team, improve my ability to work on a team. That's the whole teamwork thing that is always emphasized. Just use that opportunity because you work with a lot of people. So that's a good way to highlight that, oh, because I was able to work on this team, working with 30 people, roles were delegated and I was able to navigate through all of that and just improve my overall ability to work on a large team and be effective on it. And then also build your skill as a researcher. Because especially depending on where you are interviewing with, you want to, some programs are big on research. So telling them that, okay, just being on a project like this allowed me to build my skills as a researcher. I was able to do this and this and that on the project. And that opened my mind more towards in the field of research. So just small things like that. At the end of the day, you want everything you're saying to be tied to yourself, to just sell yourself. So as much as you want to talk about the project, find every avenue to talk positively about yourself. And also just a general thing, Dr. Kobe, your answer was brilliant. I'm glad that you mentioned that it has to be a structured response. You just can't give a vague response to a question or research. It should be structured. You should know why the project was done, how it was done. Like when I was preparing for interviews, I read up on every aspect of my project, including the part I didn't do. That's the data analysis. I'm not saying go into so much details, but sometimes they can ask you, oh, what kind of I saw that you did logistic regression. Tell me more about that. Small details like that. So you just want to just have a vague idea, at least a general idea of what kind of data was used, how it was extrapolated, how it was analyzed, and how the results came about. And I know it's a lot of information, but every answer has to be under 2 minutes. So that's why practice is important. You must find a way to summarize every possible answer in 2 minutes. So you're not going to have 10 minutes to talk about research. That's like, it might not even come up at all. And if it does, it's going to be a very quick answer. So you must be able to summarize everything about each project in 2 minutes. So that's just what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much for the answer, Dr. Vivian. Yeah, I was gonna say the exact same thing really. Apart from the importance of highlighting, the paper or whatever project that we worked on, the research experience itself is an opportunity to sell yourself, like with your personal skills, like leadership, if you led any project, teamwork, everything basically that Dr. Vivian said. So I won't even bother repeating it. She delivered it excellently well. So thank you. So let me see who should I
I was
put on the
gonna
spot
say,
next?
oh, okay.
Oh no, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, thank you for that, Dr. Ella. So I think, like Vivian said, and like pretty much everybody said also, you don't go in there. It was a fair try, actually, fair try. You don't go in there, they ask you questions, and then you invoking somebody else. I saw like you pretty much deferred everything to Edward, why it might be the first order. You are there right now, like interviewing with me. And if you're interviewing with me, I don't really give a damn about who Edward is, right? I want to know you. I didn't ask that question to know Edward. I asked that question like, hey, what is your role here? What did you do? Tell me about your research experience. Tell me about what you've done. So, like, if it's possible, you're not trying to claim, or you're not gonna claim or attempt to claim first order, but the way you own it is just gonna distinguish you. That at the end, they might even feel like you're the first order, because then they know that the people in and out so much that, wow. And then if they want to ask you that, so how come you are not the first order? But who really cares, right? So, but I think like the content, like they were giving, like Vivian give examples of, should be just make sure you know your papers very well, or whatever publication, if you've gone to. Can you guys hear me? He's showing. Uh-oh.
Yeah, we
Yes,
can hear.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Something just popped up. I was like, oh, I hope I'm still connected. All right. So so you want to make sure at least you own it, and you're not going there to claim first order, but by the time at the end of your talk, they'll be like, wow, like this guy is really impressive. And like Vivian also give an example. If you have published 10 papers, if you've gone to like conference presentation, as long as it's showing up on your CV, make sure you can, say one or two things about whatever you've done. Like if you have like thought blocking, maybe for for any of the papers you asked about, then that might just be it. Then they might question everything else, like the validity of everything else you have on your application. But I would say, at least, like she said, you don't necessarily have to then be try to become a statistician overnight. But as much as you want to know, make sure. So at least you have one or two things to say about whatever topic, even if you're not interested in that topic, at least have one or two things to say. And like typically what I would do for every interview, make sure you have your CV. So you print out your ERAS CV. And then if you want, so usually for me, I have a file that I typically go with to interview, like black, and I have my pen. I could have like multiple pens. I have one in my pocket. And obviously it might be either face-to-face. It looks like your situation might be like research, but there's no arm. As a matter of fact, I think now it's even a little easier because literally you can set your own computer on your laptop, and you can have whatever you have behind your laptop. Who's gonna see it? Nobody sees it, right? So and they ask the question, even if you don't know, you literally can, or if you have two screens to monitor, as long as you're not making it so glaring that your eyes is always going there. But in the process of talking, and then your eyes just, maybe gesticulating, that your eyes catches that, you know what you want to do, right? And then you keep talking. And the only reason why you can do that is because you've really read in and out, but you're just trying to use that. Maybe one time your eye can catch like 10 different things, and then you talk, but then obviously you're not like staring, and then you're like looking like, okay, oh boy, what's this candidate all about, right? So, but I would say just use that to your advantage. Research would be like a very good moment, very good opportunity for you to shine, because you might be one out of 10, 20, or 30 that might have some research experience. So I would say, try to own it, try to use that opportunity to shine, in addition to other things they'll be asking you that day. So I think it would be a very good opportunity to shine. And like I think Vivian added also towards the end that if you just also be mindful of the program you go. If you go to an academic institution where research is big, then absolutely, it makes sense, no brainer, right? But then if you go to a community program and they didn't really ask you question, even though it's your strength, you don't want to go there. You want to make sure you want to make them, but maybe in your comment, you can also add it, but then don't add it as like a big researcher. Even if you're a big researcher, you've done for like pharmaceuticals, you don't really want to say that, because if that's not really what they're looking for, or during your orientation in the morning, the PD has come out to say, hey, research, not our thing so much, we just want people to focus on clinical, then you might want to hold your research and just kind of put it to the side. Or if you're going to mention it, don't let it be big, just hide it under, not like a big heading, but like a sub-heading, not as something you want to talk about, because it's big clear. Made you guys aware that we're not big on research. Otherwise, if you say research so much, they might just ask you. And I've had a friend that I went to a program that I referred out to Florida of psychiatry, and then she was just talking about research. Obviously they didn't. Now, is that the only thing? I don't know, but I know she came back like, oh my God, like I felt like I was just talking about research. And I said, hold on a second though. But my friend that is there, he doesn't do research. I'm not sure that place is big on research. And then she got a feedback from him, and it turns out that, yeah, even though he wasn't there, but he kind of got back to him that, oh, there's this lady, the lady invited, well, she was like, she's so big on research. I'm like, oh, are you really big on research? You're not really big on research, but it looks like you must have talked about research in that program. But that was the thing they told, that was the feedback they gave the friend, which was my friend that got invited to that program to interview. So you want to make sure you know where you're going. Otherwise, you don't want to sound so like robotic and like, oh, this is what I've really crammed. And then you go to every single program where you're interviewing, and then you keep talking about the same thing. Probably not for research. All right. Eddie, I might have to go. I have a few things to kind of catch up on. It was nice attending today's session, and nice to learn about this research and how you've been getting everybody along, actually, carrying everybody along, especially when we talked about it on my forum. I'm not sure if this one actually predated the time we're talking about it in April, or I think March or April, or maybe it was after, but whatever it is, kudos, keep up the good work, is what I would say. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hi, thank you. Before you go, Dr. Joey has been a mentor, a friend, a guy. He has his Joey group, like almost all of us here from that Joey group. I think 90% of us. I think we started this research from the day you said we should add somebody. So I was like, okay. So I created a group. So it's post-dated the discussion. Yeah, it was. Thank you so much for coming. He's also a fellow in
That's good. That's good.
in is it addiction medicine? Yeah, he's a fellow in addiction medicine. So thank you so much. No, I'm just running your profile.
Oh, you asked.
No, I
Oh,
said
my profile. No. Yeah. I finished the addiction. So I did addiction psychiatry. That was the second fellowship in UIC. Yes, I kind of finished that. Took up the clinical instructor role, but then I did some family stuff and trying to run away from snow. They had to bounce out of Illinois, and right now I'm situated in Texas, Austin area.
Thank you so much. I'll be sharing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Dr. Yola and Dr. Vivian, it's your day, so you can carry on.
Sure. I know Dr. Vivian is at work, so I would just ask if she's available to speak or ask the next question.
Sorry, I don't even know. So I'm in and out. I'm listening.
So Dr. Bimbala was the first person that went. The person I might actually plan to put on the spot now is Dr. Henry Elukeme. And I was going to ask him about his inflammatory bowel disease research. So you could ask him about that in your own way.
Okay. I don't know if I have much information, but okay. Hi, Dr. Henry. Nice to meet you. I'm sorry, I don't know who I'm looking at.
I'll put him on the. I'm going to spotlight him.
Okay.
Dr. Henry. Spotlight for everyone. I hope he's still here. Yeah, he's here. Dr. Henry, if you can hear me, you can also speak up. Dr. Henry.
I think you're on mute, Dr. Henry.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
So I saw on your CV that you have this research done on inflammatory bowel diseases.
Correct.
Am I correct? Okay. Can you tell me where was that published?
Thank you very much for this question. As you can see, I belong to a research group, and in that group we had some peer review publication. One of them being on inflammatory bowel disease, published on Curious and its PubMed index. The work we did was we reviewed 4 practice guidelines in inflammatory bowel disease per the management. The result we found was that per the guidelines, there was not much difference for the recommendations for the treatment of excuse me, inflammatory bowel disease. However, this leaves room for continuous review for the management of inflammatory bowel disease. My role in this capacity was I reviewed the methodology. I was part of the project administration, and I was able to part of leadership for resource gathering to fund the publication. I also played oversight role. I believe that in your program, I'll be seeing a lot of patients with inflammatory bowel disease. I believe that I'm well versed in the 4 principles of ease management. I also hope to contribute my quota and help in further review of knowledge in this respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. That was a nice summary. Before I go back to what I'm currently working on, just have a few comments to make about what you just said. Again, good summary, but first thing, I only asked you where it was published. So I know we tend to practice this thing about like just, I know we talked about summarizing everything, having a quick response, having everything summarized under 2 minutes. Yes, you should have a structure in your head, but you should also be careful and pay attention to the question, because sometimes they don't care to know everything that happened on the project. Sometimes they just want to know, oh, somebody might just be curious, oh, let me see if I can do a quick search and even find this topic that you're talking about. And that's the only reason they asked you, where was this published? And then you go on to tell them everything about the project. It's literally a failure of the question, because the question only said, where was this published? So a quick response is, oh, thank you. The project was published on Curious, it's PubMed indexed. It was published on so and so date. That's it. You don't need to say more. So just being careful to want to respond to the right question is key. And if the question was, okay, tell me about the project, then everything you said is in order. But just be careful with what you hear. In a way, sometimes we tend to be a little bit robotic when it comes to these preparations for interviews. So sometimes we get so carried away, and because we've planned these answers, we just dish it out. So I'm just I purposely asked that question because I kind of felt like this would happen. So let's just be a little mindful of the question and give the answers appropriately. That's just it. But otherwise, it's very, very good response. And I think you kept to time. Just maybe if you go back, maybe just find other ways to, you sold yourself, yes. But still, if you can find other ways to just highlight your things they like to hear, words that ring, have a ringing tone to it, basically are teamwork. See that word teamwork? You don't miss it. If you can always find a way to highlight teamwork in your conversations about, especially when you have opportunities like this, where you worked with other people, if you can find a way to highlight that as a strength that you gain from that experience, then that's good. But otherwise, it's a good response. Just be careful with the question. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, I actually don't have much to add. I think Dr. Vivian covered almost everything. Only thing I would add is the initial response. I think you said something like, again, you sold yourself beautifully well. And my first feedback was going to be what Dr. Vivian said about answering the specific question. The only other thing I would add is the phrase or the sentence. It might not be a bad
I agree.
sentence, but the way it could go different ways during an interview. For example, you can actually have a blind interviewer that hasn't seen anything about your CV. Even if someone has seen your CV and you tell them, as you can see, some people's ego might not accept it. Like, what do you mean as I can see? I'm asking you. I'm not seeing anything. So I would actually not use that during an interview. I would avoid it completely for these reasons.
Thank you very much for the feedback.
Honestly, I would just say, like I mentioned earlier, practice, practice, practice. You see some of these common words. Like I also took note of as you can see, like when you mentioned it, and I'm glad Dr. Ayala brought it up because I'd forgotten that happened. But when you practice these responses, two things can happen. You can either go left or right. So the left is when you become robotic, right? And you kind of make mistakes like we just did. Sometimes you just get carried away and give a straight answer because we've practiced so much and that's all our head is ready to produce and be managed. Now, the right part of it is that when you practice, you tend to avoid certain things. There are certain terminologies and words we commonly use that are normal for us, but honestly, they are not normal everywhere else. So when you practice around other people, people can easily curtail and check those words and help you not use them outside of this kind of circle. Dr. Ayala.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other question? Or does Dr. Henry have any question about that? Or does anyone else
Dr.
have any
Henry,
feedback?
Dr. Henry, I have another question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, hello, I'm listening.
Okay. I was going to ask you how the results of your project can be applied in our institution. You're applying to us, so how can your project be applied in our institution? So let's assume that this is a community-based program that you're applying to. How can your project be of value to us as a resident?
Thank you very much. The project we did centered on reviewing the 4 practice guidelines for the management of inflammatory bowel disease. Basically, there were subtle differences in the results we reviewed, but there were not much differences in the guidelines. So this also leaves room for improvement to see if any guideline is superior to the other one. The 4 basic guidelines we reviewed gave the same result. So for the program, I believe that regardless of what guideline we use, we will achieve favorable outcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you remind me of the topic of the research?
Review of 4 practice guidelines.
No, the topic of the research.
Review of 4 practice guidelines in inflammatory bowel disease.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other question? Thank you, Dr. Vivian and Dr. Henry. Any other question, comments, feedbacks on this topic? Okay. Is Dr. Ugbo Oswald still here? Sorry, please correct me about the pronunciation.
No, you're fine. I'm right here.
Okay, how are you, sir?
I'm fine.
Good. So Dr. Ugbo, tell me, have you had any research experiences so far in your medical journey?
Yes, I've had a couple of research experience. I presently work in the research department at Baylor Scott & White, so I'm actually involved in oncology research.
Oh, okay. What kind of oncology research do you currently do?
So basically, my team, my pod, we're actually involved in solid tumors. So we see a lot of pancreatic adenocarcinoma. We see colon cancer, and we also see a lot of cervical cancer patients.
Okay. So what exactly is your role in this current job?
Okay, my role in this current job, basically, I am a research coordinator. So I coordinate the research. I am involved in recruiting patients and checking if they are eligible for the trial. Then subsequently, if the patient has been enrolled in the trial, I also follow them up to see if there is any adverse event. And I make sure I report it immediately to the principal investigator, who is the doctor involved in this trial, and also report it to our sponsors.
Okay. Wow, that sounds exciting. So do you have any exactly memorable events so far in this research experience? Is there any memorable events you would like to share with me?
Yes, though, like most times we discover that when these patients come to us, they are in a very critical stage, and they probably would have tried all standard of care treatments, which hasn't worked. And research, to me, is like a hope for them. So we've seen some patients, though not entirely cured of the cancer, but it has improved their standard of life. It has given them more time to be able to have more time with their family and all of that. So for me, it has been really fulfilling to see that we're able to help patients in this way.
Sure. I can imagine. Is there any particular patient that comes to mind? Of course, you don't have to give me the patient's, what's the word I'm looking for? With HIPAA in mind, like, is there any particular patient that comes to mind down the experience?
Yes. One particular patient, we discovered that actually it was one of our studies that we're seeing patient with I'm trying to remember the diagnosis of this patient, but so this patient, we've been able to keep this patient on the study. The tumor burden has really shrunk, and this patient has been been stable in her disease. So the tumor has not increased. The tumor shrunk, but of course, so the patient is still on the study. So one of the reasons the patient is on the study is because the patient has not progressed. The disease has not progressed. So it's quite encouraging.
Okay. All right, I'm going to pause here, and I was actually asked Dr. Vivian to give feedback because I feel like I'm also interviewing. I just came to freestyle without any particular script, but I think you did very good. I think you're able to talk about what you're doing confidently, and sounds like you enjoy what you're doing. But I would defer to Dr. Vivian for specific feedbacks.
Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I am actually in and out, so I wasn't really paying so much attention, but I heard at least most of what he said. So I think, I mean, you were very confident, you clearly know your stuff, and I don't think I have any criticism or critique, I don't know the right word to offer. Just to confirm, are we asking general interview questions?
Also, I just asked him about his research experience, and he happens to be a research coordinator, so we just kept going.
Oh, okay, yeah. I see. Okay, but overall, Dr. Oswald, I think you were very confident and very straight to the point. Like I mentioned earlier, timing is everything. You don't want to spend the bulk of your time answering one question and miss an opportunity for a future question that could have helped you sell yourself more. So I think you did justice, and you're lucky you have that huge background in research. So I think it's going to play a huge role for you as well. So I don't know, I wasn't really paying so much attention. I'm making a note right now, so I wasn't really paying so much attention, but I'll try to focus on the rest of the interview. I apologize for the distraction. So I'll try to focus going forward.
Dr. Vivian, can I answer your question? Your previous question, Dr. Vivian?
Yes, please.
Please, can I answer your previous question on how can, I think you said something about how can we incorporate the research into our program, or how can we help our program, something like that.
Right.
Okay, let me just attempt. Okay, the research was about the review of four practice guidelines on inflammatory bowel disease, and American Gastroenterology Association was part of the guidelines we reviewed. I would say that there were subtle differences in the diagnosis and treatment as compared to other guidelines. And I would say that the American Gastroenterology Association places a lot of emphasis on pathology evaluation when making their diagnosis. I would say that we can incorporate or accommodate other guidelines which say that we should do more of endoscopy than before we biopsy. And I'll also say that we should also place, when talking to our patients, we should place emphasis on the anti-inflammatory diet that the American Gastroenterology Association places emphasis on. And this, I believe this will aid the management and improve patient outcome. I'm sorry, I'm also faint. I was not prepared.
Thank you, Lola. Thank you. That's really brilliant. When I asked the question, I was actually hoping that it would be tied down to sent back to a place of prevention. I wasn't really looking for how the outcome of the results affects the program, because I mean, it's one result, right? And of course, if there was a positive, like a clear difference in the result, we could say, okay, yes. But I mean, in research, you need multiple results, and then obviously whole change of guidelines to have an effect that you can bring up to an entire program and say, okay, let's start to implement this. So that wasn't really my aim. My aim is what you mentioned, talking to your patients, being able to advocate for better diet and prevention. That's why I said, talk about, let it be like you're interviewing with a community-based program. So where you're able to communicate more with patients, where you're able to have more of a one-on-one experience with your patients. I like that you brought it back to advocating for dietary changes. That's something that does not require, you don't need the results to be A or B to be able to say this is something you can impact or you can introduce or at least advocate for in the program. The result of the research does not change that fact. When it comes to IBD, this is something we already know. So you can just mention that. It's like you're, it's just like you're put on the spot and you're asked a question about any particular pathology, and you just talk about prevention. That's basically what the answer would be. So what you just did is you just talk about prevention. So if this research had turned out to show, oh yes, one of the guidelines had this, or that was quite significant, you can say, okay, holding on to this result, this is what we can apply. But this was basically uniform, right? If I believe. I'm not very sure. I'm not really gone through most of them that well.
Yeah, you're right. It was just
for
a
me
summary.
when I asked the question.
No, say you're
Okay.
right. Go ahead.
So
yeah.
For me, when I asked the question, it was mostly about tying it down to a place of advocating for preventive measures that we can take. Then something to just say about your response. Again, thank you for the response. Very beautiful, very well put, especially on such short notice. For one thing about anything, just generally speaking, you want to have alternative phrases that you use. I heard you say, I would say that, you said that like 10 times. So you want to have alternative phrases that you use. I had to literally write down phrases, alternate phrases. So because of, we all speak differently, and sometimes we are using, you can say, in this situation, this is what this is. Then there are so many things you can say. Just try not to hold on to one particular phrase. That's just one other thing I wanted to mention. But that's speaking generally about interviews.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I actually wish we had more time to take more questions and to do more scenarios, but thanks to everyone that volunteered. Thanks to Dr. Vivian. Thank you, Dr. Eddie, for the opportunity, even though you put me on the spot to be the moderator, but it was fun. I hope we got a chance to do more of these throughout the interview season. So at this point, I would hand over to Dr. Eddie to do a wrap up. Thanks, guys.
Sorry, just before Dr. Eddie steps in, sorry, please, just to reemphasize what I mentioned earlier, please know the research, please know, there's nothing more embarrassing than you're asked a question and you're mumbling, or you're just saying, in fact, it's better you don't even have that on your CV than you are asked and you are saying off key or off point. It's the worst thing. It's going to tell everyone that you are a fraud, and you just, because they know that people pay for research. People know these things. They know that some people pay to have their names on paper. So if your name is showing on a paper and it is on your CV, please know that paper. Like I said earlier, I'm not saying you must know every single detail, but you want to know enough to show that I participated in this project. So even if you're not the one that did data analysis, I would say contact the person that did data analysis. I know I did that. Contact the person that you asked the person, what kind of analysis was done, how did we come about the results, just the basic thing, not the part the computer did is not your business, but the basic things, the kind of research that was done, the kind of data analysis and all of those things, where the data was gotten from, all those small things, you need to know them. When I was, thankfully in my case, one of the projects that I had on my CV was I had just presented it to AHA, and before the presentation, they actually made me submit a recording, but like I was presenting. I made a voice recording like I was presenting. So I had to know everything about the project. And even at that, when on the D-Day, on the day of the actual conference, I had some professors from Harvard, one from Johns Hopkins. There were like 5 professors on my panel. And these people were firing me questions, like serious questions. So you don't know who you will meet. And even as prepared as I was, I still had areas that I was very shaky on that interview. So I'm just saying, if you have something showing on your CV, you have to be able to defend it. It's sometimes it will not just slide. Sometimes you might, in fact, I would even say, even if it's a community-based program that you're interviewing with, still know your stuff. I'm not saying go and offer it as an answer if nobody asks you, but just know it, because you might just be, will I say fortunate or unfortunate, to meet one person that is trying to inculcate research into the program, and then he sees you and he sees your CV. And so I like this candidate, and he starts firing you questions and you can't answer. So if you know you don't know so much about the project, I would even say don't even have it on your CV. Honestly, it's worse for you if it is there and you can't defend it than if it's not there at all. So that's just all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Vivian. Please, can I ask a question quickly?
Yes.
Yeah, you kind of talked about prevention, having a research kind of talk more about prevention. I wasn't so clear about that part, because I feel like researchers I think one of the major goals is to probe already existing conditions or, presentations, trying to profess maybe a new thing to them. So I would like to know, you talk about prevention. Is it like anytime we try to talk about our research, we must always or consciously emphasize on the prevention part before proposing our new discoveries? Or, I didn't really get the part of prevention you talked about. And please, can you just shed more light on that? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. So that answer was with regards to that particular question about how this can be applied to your program. I remember the question, when I asked Henry the question, I said, imagine it's a community-based program where there's a lot of one-on-one interactions and all of that. So that answer was very specific to that particular question. I'm not saying every question about your project should be tied to prevention. I was saying in this particular case, where you back to the basis of that particular topic. So in this case, you're dealing with IBD. How can IBD? What can you inculcate into the program that would impact the outcome of IBD? And then that's how you go back to So based on the findings, we further highlighted the need for dietary modifications in terms of prevention of IBD, even though the outcome of the research there was no clear-cut difference, but we can all agree that dietary changes can always result in reduced incidences of inflammatory bowel diseases. Everything, I was telling some friends last year, everything in this world is English. You can sell anything in this world with English. It's something I always say to everyone. Everything in this world, just find a way to sell it. So that answer was very unique to that particular question, because you don't have a clear-cut difference, one, and they were asking you specifically with regards to a community-based program. So when you don't have like an answer, like a clear difference, one, at least something you can do is say, okay, you can prevent it by doing this. That's something that's already on the paper. Everybody knows that this exists. That's just what I don't know if I'm saying it as it is in my head. I'm not sure.
Yeah, thank you. That was really clear. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Dr. Vivian. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for attending today. Special thanks to Dr. Ayola. Special thanks to Dr. Vivian. In their busy schedule, they found out time to give us this useful advice. We really, really appreciate. Like I usually say, your help, your contribution has been crested in my hippocampus. Is it hippocampus? Indelible in my hippocampus. We won't forget this measure. We'll post a recording of the video to the group, and we hope to have other sessions if people are interested, but this time we might not just focus only on research. We have other preceptors that want to talk to us on interview sessions, maybe every Thursday, maybe it depends on the interest. We've had like 4 people now. We may also take it outside the group and just do a private thing so that we don't disturb the objective of the group. Thank you so much for participating in the hypertension project. You will receive an email from the journal once we submit it, hopefully this weekend. You will receive an email that we've submitted it and we added your name. Please go and ensure that your name was added and spelled correctly with your institution. Like I usually say, you're responsible for your name so that we don't come at the end of the day and start blaming the people that did the submission. Thank you once again. And we will
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
I think it's good night from here.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.